and gentlemen, I'd like to call the December 12th, 2017 Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. It's approximately 6 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Fairclough.
Here.
Board Member Burgess.
Here.
Board Member Roth.
Here.
Board Member Maldonado.
Here.
Board Member Bailey.
Here.
Vice Chairman Shelley.
Here.
Chairman Porter.
Here. Any additions, deletions? Mr. Manager, anything? Tab 1 is the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tab 2. Gemma?
This is a housing rehabilitation grant for 74 Northwest 2nd Street. CRA staff recommends that the CRA board approve the attached resolution authorizing the allocation of a housing rehabilitation grant in an amount up to $15,000 to Bernadette Johnson at 74 Northwest 2nd Street, Homestead, Florida 33030. Ms. Johnson is here in case the board has any questions.
Anything else from staff? Is that it? Are there any questions from the board? Ms. Fairclough?
Just have a quick question. How long has this application been pending?
This application was received on July 18th, 2016.
July? So I read in the minutes that there was, I guess, difficulty with the Southwest Advisory Committee in reaching a quorum. Was that the only reason that this application has been pending for this long?
No, I know that getting quotes was a little bit of a challenge. Some of the times when we are doing residential projects that are smaller, it can be hard to get vendors who are willing to do $2,000 worth of work, $1,000 worth of work, and still comply with our requirements. So oftentimes the delay, in this case there was a few months with the lack of quorum, but oftentimes the delay is related to vendors and getting an appropriate number of quotes.
So you have how many quotes do you have at this point? 3?
I actually think we don't have 3. I think we have 2 for one of the items, and then I think 3 for the other one. I can find out the exact amount of quotes. Typically, we don't include those in the application, but I can find out.
So 2 quotes, that suffice?
For small dollar items, yes.
And if approved tonight, when will this project start moving?
Very quickly. I mean, I anticipate probably they'll actually start doing work in January. It's a little bit late in the calendar year to get them out there. We can push and try to get them out right away. And they are vendors. Typically, they're vendors we've used before, so we can usually get them moving relatively quickly. I just don't want to commit them to getting out by the end of the year, since it's already mid-December.
Okay. I know generally there's some concern with some of the applicants regarding the amount of time they have to wait for their projects to move forward or for their projects to come before us. What can we do to mitigate that?
That's something that we can look into and come back to the board with some recommendations on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board members? Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any final comments? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Maldonado.
Yes.
Board Member Bailey.
Yes.
Board Member Burgess.
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough.
Yes.
Board Member Roth.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Shelley.
Yes.
Chairman Porter.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, ma'am. Tab 3.
This is a commercial enhancement grant award for 344 Southwest 4th Avenue. Staff recommends that the CRA board approve the attached resolution authorizing the commercial enhancement grant in the amount of $25,000 to TPS University LLC Child Care Center located at 344 Southwest 4th Avenue, Homestead, Florida 33030. One note from the background information that I'd like to just make the board aware of. Because TPS University is located in the Southwest, it is eligible for a 90% contribution by the CRA and a 10% contribution by the applicant. Improvements that have been requested include a new fence, a new playground, and a new awning for the front entrance of the building.
Questions from board members? Vice Mayor?
This is one I'm somewhat torn on. When I looked it over, and mainly it's the playground equipment, because I think the largest portion of this particular request is like 18,500 or something like that for playground equipment. And when I envision these commercial enhancement grants, I'm envisioning, the fencing is fine, or something to do with the facade of the building or the internal portions of the building. But a playground doesn't necessarily, isn't what I envision when I think about using these dollars for these types of things. I want something that's going to improve the property value either immediately or improve the neighborhood's property values, or long-term is going to kind of stay with the building. I know I asked this question to Gemma earlier, and so my understanding is that I guess this is going to be potentially a permanent playground. So I don't know if that's paved concrete and then they're going to pour the playground into the concrete so that it's kind of a permanent structure. Because it's a church property, that's why I'm on the fence. Otherwise, I think if this was just a normal commercial item, I would probably be against it. But I'm kind of on the fence because it is a church property, and therefore there are usually kids' activities involved with churches, and this is a school, and it could be an additional school. So I'm not quite sure where I stand on it, and I just maybe raised it for further discussion by my colleagues to see if they have a position on it. But I'm somewhat on the fence on the issue of the playground being an approved expense. Is the applicant here, or is anybody here to actually answer any questions? Can you kind of describe to me what you envision with this playground? Because that's the other question. I don't have any pictures of the playground or anything to look at. I mean, what do you envision placing out there on the property? How is it going to be permanent in nature, or what type of playground equipment? Is it metal? Is it wood? Those types of things.
Just give us your name and address too, please, for the record.
Hello, I'm Takara Burke, and I'm the owner of TPS University. And when you say my address, you're talking home or you're talking work?
The work address is fine.
344 Southwest 4th Avenue, Homestead, Florida.
Thank you.
Well, the type of playground that I envision is about 50,000 for the type of children that it varies from ages to 2 to 12. But seeing that, we're limited with funds, and yes, it is a metal playground. It is stationary, cannot be moved. And there's several different levels you can go with a playground. You can go with just regular grass, which I do not want. There's a special type of salt or spongy material that goes around, so if a child does fall and fall down, they won't hurt themselves that much because it's kind of cushiony. I don't know if you've ever walked out to a public playground, and when you walk, it's kind of absorbent, so that type of. Okay.
But I mean, is it going to be, the playground's going to be, I guess this is something you guys can look at, and again, I don't want to take up too much time here. I'll let the rest of the council, but that's just my concern. And so you've answered some of my questions, but I just want to make sure it kind of stays with the land and longevity-wise, that it's going to last for a while, such that.
Yes, these type of playgrounds, industrial playgrounds do.
Continue to improve the value of the property, the church property or school property, whatever happens to be, so.
Right, it's not the type you go to Walmart and get, and, it lasts for a week or so.
All right, I'll relinquish the floor.
All right. Thank you, sir. Ms. Fairclough.
Yes, thank you. Hello. Quick question. So you're operating out of the Reverend A.C. McQueen Educational Center?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been operating out of there?
January 9th will be 1 year we've been there.
Okay, because I know Kix was there before.
Some time
To
before,
go.
yes.
How many children do you service?
Well, we're licensed for 54,
Mhm.
but at the present time, I have 10,
10. The age range?
from 0 to 5,
Okay.
with some after-school children as well.
So as it relates to the facility itself, you haven't considered any upgrades or enhancement to the facility?
Well, the facility itself, we can't, my company can't touch because the building is, it has something to do with, I can't touch the facility. I don't have any means to touching the facility because it's supposed to be, and excuse my loss of memory, but historical. So this is why I'm asking for the playground to go on the backside, fenced in.
I understand that the playground will enhance the overall property itself, but just looking at the facility and having gone there, to me, I feel as if the funding will be better used to enhance the facility, the building, as opposed to enhancing it with a playground.
Well, I understand that as well, but I was told with doing a little
Right.
homework that because it's a historical building, that I couldn't do too much of anything. I also wanted to put like some type of pictures to bring attention to the building to show that, it is a child care facility.
I mean, just painting, air conditioning, because there's still like wall units.
Yes, and they
right?
work fine. That works fine. But in the 15 years of me being in child care, the first thing my professor told me that and it's sad to say, but it's true, that if you want to promote your daycare and you want for people to see it, you put a nice playground there.
I know playgrounds are
And I
very
want
important.
I want a nice playground for the children, a safe playground for the children.
I'm, like Councilman Shelley, I kind of had some reservations as well with the playground being requested for as opposed to the actual building, the facility. But I understand that it is enhancing the facility, it's increasing the value of it. It's just a little far stretch for me, but because I have experience with working with early childhood learners, I understand the value of the playground because that's how children learn through play. But I would have loved to see the money used for the facility, the building itself.
Yes, ma'am.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Maldonado?
I didn't say anything.
I'm sorry. Mr. Roth, I'm sorry.
Well, see, he mixes us up too still. Thank you, Mayor. I have just a few questions and thoughts here. In our packet that was given to us, the actual lease is expired to this property. Does that have anything to do with the application and going forward with this? Do they have a current lease?
Yes, sir.
Because I don't have it here.
And I also see that, it's my understanding that the license to the facility has expired as well since the application has gone in. I have the license, but I apologize. I do not have the lease because that was in the pastor's office and he was not there at the time.
Okay, also on the applicant's affidavit, and this may be for staff to look at, we have a notary stamp on the affidavit and the notary signing as an applicant. And then the notary is also notarizing the form as well. Is that just a error on the affidavit?
Sir, I believe you're looking on page 6,
Page 4.
page 4.
Applicant's affidavit.
So I think that perhaps this first page that you're looking at, page 4, did not require a notary. The notary signed on the applicant line, but the same notary notarized properly. So they weren't required to notarize page 4. They were required to notarize page 5 and 6, which they did the right way. I'm happy to follow up on that, and we can have them redo that page. Although it does appear that the notary just thought that they had to notarize, and there was no notary section for them. but I'm happy to follow up.
Okay. And finally, the lease actually calls for a letter from the landlord when making improvements to the property. Now, we have a property owner's consent affidavit in our package, which is signed by the applicant and not the owner of the property. And I haven't seen a letter authorizing anything to, you do?
I'm happy to run this up to you. So there was just a letter on their letterhead. It's titled Letter of Consent. It's dated July 19th, 2017. It's in Exhibit 1. It's right after the commercial property coverage. It's right after the Accord certificate with their commercial liability insurance. Here, I'll
This one here? Okay. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
That's her. Ms. Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Starting off is very, very tough. I'm just, I was looking over this and I'm very excited to have another quality childcare in the area. How long is the new lease for?
It goes year to year.
It's year to year?
Yes, ma'am.
So what were to happen if you decided to move after this first year was up? Would you be taking that equipment with you?
Well, no, I can't.
You wouldn't be able-
I would leave it there to also
Okay.
help. That's part of my church as well.
Okay. Then I just want to say all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Fairclough?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one additional question. Has the facility passed all of its inspections?
Except one, they're working on the electrical. There was some sockets that they wanted changed, and they're in the process of doing that.
Okay. When would that be finalized?
As a matter of fact, I'm having a meeting tomorrow night with the deacons of the church and the
Okay.
pastor to give me that information.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Gemma, do you have any idea as to the historical aspect of the building?
Yes, and one note, just on the earlier point, the equipment is required to be fixed and not movable. So the applicant and the property owner have to sign consent forms that they're not going to take it with them. The intent is for it to remain with the property, and the playground equipment would not be concreted in, but it would be affixed with my understanding is they dig a footer, like for a fence. They put the pole in, the metal pole, and then they cover that with concrete. So it may not be a slab, but it's not going anywhere. And then the applicant does sign a consent that they won't take it with them if they leave. The property that this business is located in is St. Paul Missionary Church. That is a historically designated property. It's in our historic guide for historic Homestead, so when you do the walking tour, it's on there. Whenever a change to the building needs to be made, it does require a certificate of appropriateness, and that can be acquired either through staff or Historic Preservation Board, depending on the magnitude of the change. But the applicant is correct, because it's a historically designated property, they do have to follow a different process than if it was not.
Ms. Fairclough?
Thank you, Mayor. But because it's historically designated, that doesn't mean that you can't do anything to the building. It's just you have to follow a different process. Like as it relates to painting, do you have to follow a different process for painting, upgrading? So it's not that it can't happen. Can happen. It's just a different process that the landlord probably didn't want to take that route.
That is correct.
Okay, any other comments, any other questions? Is there a motion? Motion to approve, is there a second? Second? Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Board Member Fairclough?
Yes.
Board Member Maldonado?
Yes.
Board Member Bailey?
Yes.
Board Member Ross,
Yes.
Board Member Burgess. Vice Chairman Shelley,
Yes.
Chairman Porter,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Any other news, any reports, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, any comments, public comments? Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved and second, all in favor? Motion carries. We're going to recess and go to the committee of whole in just a few minutes.